Hi students, good morning everybody. In the last video in third chapter, we discussed about Ampere's circuital law. As a continuation of this, in this video, we are going to see about a solenoid. What is a solenoid? A solenoid is a long coil of wire closely wound in the form of a helix. We will see the diagram after some time. In a solenoid, when an electric current is passed through it, the magnetic field is produced around the solenoid. The magnetic field of the solenoid is due to the superposition of the magnetic fields of each turn of the solenoid. Each and a solenoid carrying current through this will behave like a magnetic dipole. There will be a magnetic field inside the solenoid which is uniform. The direction of the magnetic field due to a solenoid is given by right hand palm rule. That is when the current passes through this is indicated by the curled fingers. The direction of the thumb gives the direction of the magnetic pole. Inside the solenoid, the magnetic field is nearly uniform and parallel to the axis of the solenoid, but outside the solenoid, the field is negligibly small. Based on the direction of the current, one end of the solenoid behaves like a north pole and the other end behaves like a south pole. That is, when a current passes through the solenoid, a magnetic field will be produced inside the solenoid and the solenoid will behave like a magnetic dipole having north pole at one end and south pole at another end. The current carrying solenoid is held in the right hand. If the fingers curl in the direction of the current, the extended thumb gives the direction of the magnetic field of the current carrying solenoid. This diagram represents the photo of a solenoid. A coil of wire is found like this, and these are the inner parts of the solenoid. This represents the cross-sectional view of a solenoid, and this solenoid acts as a Bohr diagram. Acts as a Bohr magnet. A current is passing through the solenoid like this along this direction. So the solenoid, inside the solenoid, a magnetic field is produced, and the magnetic field is produced along the axis of the solenoid, and it is uniform inside the magnetic field. And when current passes through the solenoid will behave like a magnetic dipole. That is, one end becomes south pole and the other end becomes the north pole. The direction of the magnetic field inside the solenoid. This diagram represents it. The magnetic field of a solenoid look like a magnetic field of a Bohr magnet, which means the solenoid is assumed to be long when the length of the solenoid is very large compared to the diameter. The winding need not always be circular. It can also be in another shapes. Now we are going to derive an expression for a magnetic field due to a long current carrying solenoid. This diagram represents a cross-sectional view of a solenoid, current carrying solenoid. The solenoid is having a length L and there are n turns in the solenoid. The diameter of the solenoid is assumed to be much smaller when compared to the length of the solenoid, and in this solenoid the coil is closely wound. In order to calculate the magnetic field at a point inside the solenoid, you have to use Ampere's circuital law. To calculate this, a rectangular Amperian loop ABCD passes through the point where the magnetic field is to be calculated. And according to Ampere's circuital law, we can write integration taken over a closed loop C of B vector dot dl vector is equal to mu naught into I enclosed, where I enclosed represents the total current enclosed by the Amperian loop. So as this Amperian loop consists of 4 sections AB, BC, CD and DA. So the above equation can be rewritten as the left hand side of the equation is written as integration of A to B B vector dot dl vector plus B to C B vector dot dl vector plus integration from C to D B vector dot dl vector plus integration from D to A B vector dot dl vector. The elemental length BC and DA are perpendicular. See, this elemental length BC and DA are perpendicular to the magnetic field inside the solenoid. Here the angle theta becomes 90. So for integral B to C B vector dot dl vector is equal to integral B to C magnitude of B vector magnitude of dl vector cos 90 becomes 0. Similarly, integration from D to A B vector dot dl vector is also equal to 0. Here along D to A magnetic field is and dl are perpendicular to each other. The magnetic field outside the solenoid is 0. If you consider the integral along C to D, it is outside the solenoid, so this term becomes 0. But for the path along A to B, integral from A to B, B vector or dl vector is equal to B into integration dl cos 0 from A to B. Because B is uniform, we have taken it out here, which is equal to B into integration A to B dl, where the length of the loop AB shown in this diagram is nothing but equal to h. But the choice of length of the loop AB is arbitrary. We can take a very large loop such that it is equal to the length of the solenoid L. Therefore, using this integral, we can write integral BA to B B vector dot dl vector is equal to B into capital L. If I is the current passing through the solenoid of n turns, then integration from A to B B vector dot dl vector is equal to BL, which is equal to mu naught Ni according to Ampere's circuit law. Therefore, here L and here I can write B is equal to mu naught Ni by L. If the number of turns per unit length is N by L is equal to small n, I can rewrite the above equation. B is equal to mu naught N I L by L, which is equal to mu naught Ni, where N is a constant for a given solenoid and mu naught is also a constant. For a fixed current I, the magnetic field inside the solenoid is also a constant. So the formula B is equal to mu naught Ni represents the magnetic field at any point inside the solenoid. Here small n represents the number of turns per unit length of the solenoid. This is calculated or derived using Ampere's circuit law. Lorentz force. When an electric charge Q is kept at rest in a magnetic field, no force acts on it. At the same time, if the same charge moves in a magnetic field, that charge will experience a force. This force is different from Coulomb's force we studied in first chapter. This force is known as magnetic force. So what do you mean by a magnetic force? If an electric charge moves in a magnetic field, the force experienced by that electric charge is called as magnetic force, and this force is given by the equation F vector is equal to Q into V vector cross B vector, where V vector represents the velocity of the charge and B vector represents the magnetic field in which the charge is moving. If the charge moves in both electric and magnetic fields, due to the electric field it will experience a force which is QE, a vector, and magnetic field it will experience a force Q into V vector cross B vector. So under the influence of the combined effect of electric and magnetic field, the total force experienced by the charge is given by F vector is equal to Q into E vector plus V vector cross B vector. This force is known as Lorentz force. Now let us see in detail about the force on a moving charge in a magnetic field. That if an electric charge of Q moves with the velocity V in a magnetic field, the force experienced is called magnetic Lorentz force Fm vector. After careful experiments, Lorentz reduced the force experienced by the moving charge in the magnetic field, and he gave the formula Fm vector is equal to Q into V vector cross B vector. In magnitude form, we can write Fm is equal to QVB sin theta. These two equations imply that Fm is directly proportional to the magnetic field. Fm is directly proportional to the velocity of the charged particle, and Fm is directly proportional to the sine of the angle between the velocity and the magnetic field. Fm is directly proportional to the magnitude of the charge, and Fm always perpendicular to V vector and B vector, because Fm vector is the cross product of V vector and B vector. In the diagram, we are taking positive charge. V acts along this direction, B acts along this direction. So in this case, if it is a positive charge, when the positive charge moves with the velocity V in a uniform magnetic field, the force acts along this direction. Suppose if the same negative charge moves in this magnetic field, the force is acting in the opposite direction. So from these two diagrams, it is clear that the force on negative charge is opposite to the force on the positive charge, provided the other factors are kept constant as shown in the diagram. If the charge is at rest is in a magnetic field, then if the velocity on the charge q is along the magnetic field, then Fm vector is equal to 0. That is, if V vector and B vector are parallel, then Fm is equal to 0. From this, we can give the definition of Tesla. Tesla is the unit of magnetic field or magnetic induction. The strength of the magnetic field is 1 Tesla if a unit charge moving in it with a unit velocity experiences unit force. So 1 Tesla is equal to 1 Newton second by Coulomb meter, which is equal to 1 Newton by ampere meter, which is equal to 1 Newton ampere meter minus 1 meter minus 1. Now we are going to discuss about the motion of a charged particle in a uniform perpendicular magnetic field. So this is a charged particle plus q, and the crossed blue colored crosses represents a uniform magnetic field B vector, and here the magnetic field is acting perpendicular to the velocity of the particle. Consider a charged particle of charge q of mass m entering into a region of uniform magnetic field B vector with a velocity v such that the velocity is perpendicular to the magnetic field. That is, V vector and B vector are perpendicular to each other. When this charged particle enters into the perpendicular magnetic field, as soon as it enters the field, a Lorentz force acts on it and in a direction perpendicular to both magnetic field B vector and velocity. As a result, the charged particle will begin to move in a circular path as shown in the diagram. So it is clear that whenever a charged particle moves in a perpendicular magnetic field, the force acting on the charged particle will be perpendicular to both V vector and B vector. As a result, the charged particle will begin to move in a circular path with inside a uniform magnetic field. So the magnetic force for this case can be written as F vector is equal to Q into V vector cross B vector. Since the Lorentz force acts on the particle, the magnitude of the net force on the particle is summation of Fi is equal to sum Fm is equal to QVB, because here we can write QVB sin theta. When you write it in magnitude form, since theta becomes 90, sin 90 becomes 1. Therefore, Fm is equal to QVB. This magnetic Lorentz force provides the necessary centripetal force and make the particle to move in a circular path. So, on this case, on the charged particle, there are two forces acting. One is the Lorentz force and another is the centripetal force. So, QVB is equal to mv square by r, where mv square by r represents the centripetal force. Therefore, the radius of the circular path of the charged particle in this case from this equation can be written as r is equal to mv by qb. And you know m into v is nothing but the momentum of the particle P. So R is equal to P by QB. Here P is equal to mv, which is the magnitude of the linear momentum of the particle. Let T be the time taken by the particle to finish one complete circular motion. Then T is equal to 2 pi R by V. But from equation 3.57, V by R is equal to QB by M. V by R is equal to QB by M. Therefore, T is equal to 2 pi M by QB. Equation 359, which represents the time period of the particle, is called cyclotron period. The reciprocal of the time period is frequency F, which is F is equal to 1 by T. So F is equal to QB by 2 pi M. In terms of angular velocity, omega is equal to 2 pi F, which is equal to QB by M. This equation 360 and this equation 361, which represents the frequency and angular frequency, are called as cyclotron frequency or gyro frequency. Equations 359, 360 and 369. From these three equations, we infer that the time period and frequency depends upon the charge to mass ratio, that is Q by M, that is called specific charge, and not upon the velocity of the velocity or the radius of the circular path. If you see this equation T and also equation F, there is no term we have in V, so it is clear that T and F does not depends upon the velocity of the particle. Similarly, from these two equations, there is no term having the radius of the circular path, so it is clear that the time period and frequency of the charged particle does not depends upon the velocity of the particle and the radius of the circular path. So far we discussed that when a charged particle moves in a perpendicular magnetic field, it follows a circular path. But let us see what will happen when a charged particle moves in a region of uniform magnetic field such that its velocity is not perpendicular to the magnetic field. If the charged particle moves in a velocity such that if its velocity is not perpendicular to the magnetic field, then what will happen means the velocity of the particle in this case will split up into two components. One component of velocity will be parallel to the field, while the other component is perpendicular to the field. The component of velocity parallel to the field remains unchanged, but the component of velocity perpendicular to the field keeps on changing due to Lorentz force. So in this case, the path of the particle will not be a circle as in the as when theta is equal to 90 degree. Here in this case, the particle will follow a helical path like this as shown in the diagram. Okay. This photograph shows the helical path of an electron moving inside a cloud chamber. For example, the helical path of an electron when it moves in a magnetic field is shown in the diagram. Inside the particle detector called a cloud chamber, the path is made visible by the condensation of water droplets. So from this topic, we can able to understand that when a charged particle particle moves in a direction perpendicular to the direction of the magnetic field, it will follow a circular path. And for this case, the time period and the frequency does not depend upon the velocity of the particle and radius of the path. But if the same charged particle will not move in a direction perpendicular to the magnetic field, the velocity splits up into two components. One component remains constant, another component is changed. As a result, the particle will move in a helical path. Now we are going to see what happens when a charged particle moves under the crossed electric and magnetic field. A region which consists of perpendicular electric and magnetic field is called as a velocity selector. In this diagram, the crossed blue crosses represents a uniform magnetic field, and this arrow mark represents a uniform electric field. So in this region, uniform electric field and magnetic field are kept perpendicular to each other. In this region, which is called as the velocity selector region, a charged particle is entering. The electric field is provided between the two parallel plates of a parallel plate capacitor, such that one plate is positive and another plate is having a negative charge. Let us consider an experimental arrangement in this velocity selector as shown in the diagram. In the region of the space between the plates of a parallel plate capacitor, as we have seen in the diagram, which produces a uniform electric field E vector, a uniform magnetic field vector is perpendicular to the direction of the electric field. Suppose a charged particle with a charge Q enters in the space from left to right side with a velocity v. The net force will act on the particle under the influence of the electric field and magnetic field. The net force acting on this charged particle is given as F vector is equal to Q into E vector cross B vector. For a positive charge, the electric force on the charge acts in the downward direction. At the same time, the Lorentz force due to magnetic field acts upwards. When these two forces balance each other, then we can write QE is equal to QV0B, or V0 is equal to E by B. There V0 represents the velocity of the charged particle in a direction along the magnetic field. From the equation V0 is equal to E by B, it is clear that the speed of the particle is now independent of mass and the charge. The force acts only on the particle moving with the particular speed. So by proper choice of electric and magnetic field, the particle with only a particular speed which obeys the equation E by B can be selected. So among the particles with different velocities, a region which consists of a perpendicular electric and magnetic field can select only the particles who having a velocity satisfying this equation. So such a region is called, such a region which is obtained by using the arrangement of electric and magnetic fields perpendicular to each other is called as a velocity selector. A velocity selector is a region which consists of two perpendicular electric and magnetic fields which can able to select only the charged particles of the velocity which is satisfied by the formula V0 is equal to E by B is called as the velocity selector region. Thank you.